My name's Mohsin. I'm a denim designer and historian, and I've been in the industry working for about 20 years. I've always been an avid collector of vintage garments and travel the world searching for garments from everywhere from America, parts of like Europe, even Asia and Bangkok, as well as like Japan. I use all the vintage garments that I collect in all of my denim history classes and seminars when I teach how to make jeans. So I'm always explaining the past and how we can make things in a new way. But the story of vintage and how things are found are always very interesting. How these garments are found nowadays is really quite inspiring. I've heard lots of myths and stories. Beginning of my career, I would normally travel to parts of America, Middle America, and parts of Japan and things like this to try and find vintage garments. But it was only about 10 years or so where I came across an article which actually discussed it, and it basically said that most of the vintage, or the best vintage that's found nowadays, is coming via Pakistan. And I never believed it. And then it's not until I became quite friendly with a number of vintage sellers, and they told me, no, it's true. We often get a lot of our stuff via Pakistan. So I did some research about it, and it turned out that after World War II, when Pakistan and India became independent, America gave aid to Pakistan, and a lot of it was actually in garment form, garments. So these garments would have been from the 30s and 40s that these Baol garments were from. So anyway, that's the myth behind it. And in the last 6-7 years, I've been traveling a lot to Pakistan, and I've become very, very friendly with a number of different people, including people who are in the rag trade. And it's true, there's a lot of recycling that goes via Pakistan, so from America, and it ends up a lot. And then, so it's unbelievable, really. I've found some amazing pieces that are from the 20s and 30s in Pakistan, and I found them moments away from being like destroyed. So I went to a company called AFM, Artistic Fabric Mills. These guys are shredding old garments and repurposing them to make yarn. And I happened to be there on a work trip, and I kind of invited myself, going, could I see one of your recycling plants on my final day? So I ended up going together with my wife, Sadia, and good God, it was amazing to see. It was a very clean space, very well organized, and there was a pile of garments ready to be sorted, and they were separating out all of the colored garments. They were separating out all of the garments that they could tell had polyester in, because they couldn't recycle these. They wanted the raw cotton. And there was a pile of stuff, like duck garments and other types of garments which they're not going to use. So I went through those first. But then I knew if I spent some time looking through the garments, I would find something. And probably within 15-20 minutes of just searching through, I found a 1930s Levi's Type 1 jacket. And it was just shocking. And I knew from the fabric texture, I think the sleeve was popping out. There was no evidence it was a Levi's at this stage. It was a fabric, So pulled it out, and I knew instantly what it was. And it was just unbelievable. And we ended up staying a little bit longer. But it just goes to show that, the best places to look for denim might not be down a mine shaft or buried in the ground. It might be in the recycling centers that sort through garments ready to be shredded. So it was an unbelievable garment find that we had. Obviously, I've got a couple of Type 1s in my collection, but I've never had one from this earlier period. It could be a 1937 period, could be slightly earlier. Unbelievable, but the story of the vintage clothing trade and the trade routes, they all go through Pakistan. So, even though Pakistan is producing some of the best recycled denim on the planet, and it's also a good source for inspiration as well. Having visited AFM a number of times this year, I was super impressed. Not only are these guys recycling PCW and PIW, all these recycled yarns go back into their denim fabrics they produce. an inspiring achievement for this third generation denim mill. So my advice would be for any designer who happens to travel and happens to go to a recycling plant, spend a good hour at this place and ask lots of questions, and definitely look at the stuff that they're throwing away and definitely rummage through. You never know what you're going to find. Thanks.